Good day all. Ira Epstein of Linn & Associates with your metals market update, and this is for Wednesday, July 31st, 2019, and the time now about 4:40 p.m. Central Daylight Time. Well, as you can see, the gold was down on the day, silver down, but these markets were actually lower than this right at the very end of the day, and the culprit, the U.S. dollar. So you can see the stock market down, but let's go to the culprit here, the Federal Reserve. The Fed lowered its Fed fund rate by 1/4 point to a range of 2 to 2.25%. They voted 8-2 to do this. 2 dissenters didn't want a rate cut at all, which also means no Fed member wanted the 1/2 point cut. That's important. The next part, the Fed said they did it for muted inflation purposes coupled with worldwide developments are reasons for the cut. In other words, the inflation isn't growing anywhere, including the U.S. We don't want to end up in Japan's position, so they made what's called an insurance cut. And if you saw the press conference, it was pretty clear about that. The Fed's balance sheet, and I predicted this morning on Bloomberg, I said, why wouldn't they do that? In fact, I went out with friends last night and I said, my prediction is that they're going to cut the balance sheet runoff. Why not? There's only 8-9 weeks left to run, whatever the time is. I said, that's a monetary policy tightening. When you do that, what happens is you're defeating the purpose of the 1/4 point cut, and I don't think they'll give the 1/4 point cut because the president's goading them so much. If they did it, they'd look like they're giving in. Now, the stock market took many different things that was going on from the Fed chair. First, it sounded to some like it was a one-off and done. That wasn't good. Then it sounded to some, he cleaned that up a little bit. No, the Fed's going to adjust to whatever's needed. That put that back in play, but it also sent the dollar on a tear to the upside. Why? The U.S. is just embarking now on beginning to ease interest rates. I do not believe for any moment at all, barring a U.S. trade deal with China, that the U.S. is a one and done. I think the world economies, you're going to see them race to the bottom line. What do I mean by that? They're all going to start cutting interest rates. Brazil did it this afternoon. So you're going to see it one after the other is my guess on the market. And the reason is they all want to pull out of this. It's a nosedive. You don't want to see your economy gradually as you're going down in that plane. You're trying to pull it up and get it ahead. This was an insurance cut. The Fed said the economy's doing well. It's meeting expectations. That didn't sit in the stock market all that well today. But what about gold? Well, I'll discuss that probably in my evening reports and so on. But suffice to say, a strong dollar is not gold's friend. Yes, they can rally at the same time, but generally it impacts it. If we take it a weekly chart of closes, don't get all excited that gold dropped so much. It's up $6 for the week. The all-time high close, let me take that back. The recent high close, I think of all time because we haven't been at these levels so long, is 1426.70. And you don't have to correct me, I know gold's been higher than that. When we take a look, though, at the action, you had an outside day down. What's the importance of that to me, at least? If today's high is taken out, that often leads to this being a bear trap day and the market tries to advance. That's what it means. So the question is where? Well, let's first put on the swing lines. You've got a lower low, higher high, outside day down. The support in the market is the 18-day average at 1430.70. We certainly got under that today. Okay, but that's your battleground. You got to it 3 days ago, you got to it again today, and any way you want to cut it, I hate that they settle markets at 1230. That's where they're going to put the settlement. Where did the market peak against? I want you to look at these upper Bollinger Bands. That's what you're stuck temporarily within. But what else did I just say? I said if you take out the high of an outside day down, you often go to the closest moving average. It can't be the 18, that would be over that, and it can't be the 100. And so I look at it that could start the next rally if that occurs. Admittedly, you'd be right into your resistance zone could the market overcome it. In momentum, we've been drifting. Slight drift to the downside, the bias up, no trend. This is a market caught right in the sideways action right now. The longer it goes sideways, the bigger the opportunity when it breaks out of there. I didn't say which direction, right? So let's look at some other markets to see that. When you take a look at the low today, in the ETF GLD, which had been leading the gold. It got to 133.02, taking out 133.44. So the market went into a pause. This market has not been strong enough to get up against the upper Bollinger Band other than about 2 weeks ago back here, which drove it back to the 18-day average. But visually, you've got very much sideways action. And where's the battleground? It shaped up for almost the last 4 out of the 5 days at that 18-day average of closes. Now, momentum, which often leads prices, turned down. And if you look at the settlement today at 133.21, it's under the 18-day average. This is a little more realistic as to what the market did than the futures, because the futures settle at 12:30 and they trade to 4 o'clock p.m. That's all Central Time, whereas the stock market in Central Time finishes out at 3 o'clock right at the end of the day. So this market saw the Fed announcement and the press conference for a settlement price, whereas the futures did not. When we come to GDX, we had said and been saying this market was not as strong as the futures or the GLD, and now it's in a downtrend mode. So you've got lower highs, lower lows. What should we expect then? Until we get back over this 2,800 level, the market is downside bias, it's got momentum pointing down, and it's got the trend pointing down. The market's in a downtrend for this part of the move. The gold-silver ratio, we began a corrective mode the other 2 days or so, and we're still in it, as you can see. But remember, you've come from 93.5 to around 86, so getting a small bounce is within the cards. Silver's in a corrective mode. What do I mean? Lower highs, lower lows. That is in the swing line of downtrend, but it's completely countered by the fact that you're over the 18-day average of closes, and you still have the embedded reading. This is the lead indicator right now. Until that red line closes under 80, the odds of this market making its way down to the 18-day average are not strong, which means I'm looking for the pros to step in and buy unless some other event happens. In the copper, bearish. Why not? The copper market was hoping, like the hog market and the soybean market, that a U.S. trade deal was going to produce something. In other words, when our delegation went there 2 days ago, they went home empty-handed. Anything else you hear is politics. You don't go for a dinner in Shanghai, then have a half-a-day meeting and go back with Mr. Lighthizer, Mr. Mnuchin, the vice premier of China, and the head negotiator of China, the big boy, even the rougher one. They're setting tones, but they agreed to nothing. And you knew that yesterday because the president as a negotiator is smart enough to know. You go into a negotiation and right in front of your two head guys walking in, you don't send out the tweets he did. That's my opinion. Do I know it? I don't know, but I'm guessing. So could this market make it back to the lower Bollinger Band? Why not? But step back and look at the bigger picture. It's all sideways action. This is what you call a frustrating market. It makes it from the high to the low of the Bollinger Bands and back and forth. If you can catch it, great, but it's forcing you to go short to catch the majority of the move over the 18-day average. I don't believe in that. When I look at the platinum market, you still have the embedded reading. Lose it, and I'll think the price is going to make a run for the combination of the 18 and the 100-day average. However, this average also turned bullish today. This is how you looked yesterday. You had the shorter-term average underneath the 100. It got over it today. So even if it breaks, I'm going to look for rather formidable support to show in at that general area. What we have is a pattern of higher lows, but we also have lower highs without today's action. So the market had lost its poise for the bull market. It had been running against the upper Bollinger Band, pushed it out with the embedded reading, and you could be in a bit of a corrective mode. But I don't think you're in an all-out bear mode, is what the chart is, to me, saying. The market that has nothing going for it has been the palladium market. Once it lost this level of its upward trajectory and went back down to the lower Bollinger Band, it's been whipping, but different than the other metals. It's staying under the 18-day average the majority of the time, so it's keeping the bias down. Momentum is just flattened out. I don't know what to do with that market. In the dollar index, this is the enemy of the metals right now. The power of the dollar getting up to a new high for this whole level on this cycle, very important. It's certainly the president's gonna be tweeting like mad, the Fed didn't do enough. You know that's coming. You know that he's gonna say that they're the cause of whatever it is, whatever's going on. But the world markets have to look at it and now say, yeah, the Fed's doing a cut, so we've gotta get ahead of them. That's what I expect to be the theme of the day. You watch and see what goes on. That keeps power in the dollar until and unless on Thursday or Friday, you take out today's low. It's an outside day up. That would give me cause to think that the market's exhausted the up and it's ready to come back to the 18-day average. Until that happens, and until you lose the embedded reading, even if that happens, that's going to rule the day. So that's how I'd look at it. I'll be discussing this and a lot more in my morning videos tomorrow. Now, these morning videos, let me tell you what they're meant to do. They're meant to give you confidence in your trading. You may think that I don't know what I'm doing, and that's fine, so go the opposite way. I'm not being funny. I'm being realistic. On the other hand, you might think, hey, he's a good chartist. I'd like to know what he sees. Then take a look at what I'm doing. And in the morning, unlike these, I can talk specifics. This is general. I mean, I really load you up on specifics. For some people, they're happier with this. That's great. But don't look for me to give you as much information in these videos as I'm going to do on my subscriber video. It is never going to happen. So what I do in the morning is I'll give you the technical and a touch of fundamentals because I already know what Asia's done. Example, in the morning, I'm going to know how Asia reacts to the Fed. I'm going to see how Europe's reacted. So when I do my morning video, I'll already know what the currency plays are, what's going on. I'm going to bring them all up to you. I will cover the market each and every time in this manner. And you're able to drag the slide bar on the video, and each one of these will pop up in large words, tell you what section you're in, or there'll be a lexicon on the side. Just click it. It is not free. It's 26.5 cents a day if you want to give it a try for the first 30 days, and they are 30-day subscriptions. After that, it rolls if you want it to. If you don't want it to, it just stops. You tell us. $15 for the next 30 days, or you can convert, and at the beginning even, anytime you want, go to a 1-year subscription for $156 a year instead of if you take 15 times the 12 months, you see where you're at there. So it's a bit more money without question. You get a savings is the point. How do you find out more and what you do? Go to our website, www.iraepstein.com. Go to our website. If you go to the, or call us, if you go to the website under Education and Research, that's where the information is. It's under Ira's Morning Subscriber Video, and it tells you all about it. You can click here if you want. It'll take you to that page as well if you're watching me on YouTube. I'm Ira.